For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely, Eure, here with Shotgun Spratling for its analysis of USC's 33-17 win over Utah. Shotgun, you and I are in our normal setup, so we're not at Utah. We didn't get to see the game from our usual perspective. And USC, for the first time this season, didn't win the game in the last minutes of regulation. So some new things in 2020. But First off, Shotgun, let's just get your overall thoughts. This was a game where Utah was the third team to start its season against USC, and they kind of looked like it. USC had opportunities to pull away in this game, but Utah kind of lingered there. USC kept them in the game. What were your overall thoughts?
I think this is USC's most complete performance, but there's still a lot of room where they can improve. I think that they really took a step forward defensively, and Clay Helton said the same exact thing. I think that you're seeing that defense is starting to come together first year under Todd Orlando. Thought it might take a little bit of time, and there's been a lot of negativity pushed at the defense with the way that they struggled to stop the run the first two games. They did that against Utah much better. They shut down the Utes and their offense, but really created turnovers. I mean, they got the ball back 7 times. 5 turnovers created plus 2 turnovers on downs. That was the difference in this game. I think you got to give a lot of credit to the defense. USC's offense still some stuff where they can grow and, could have taken advantage of things. But USC, you kept feeling like, okay, this is the time where Utah's going to turn around. They're going to make a run right here. This is the time where they put a drive together. But the defense kept shutting them down. You felt, hey, this is some must magic, some Pac-12 after dark. And even when the cameras went out, the ESPN cameras went out and there was no game to watch and we had to turn on the radio real quick, still the USC defense kept coming back and making stops. They get a 3-and-out during that window, and that's what they did the entire second half. No third down conversions allowed in the second half. So that was the biggest telling stat to me, along with the turnovers. But it was all about the USC defense making some adjustments that second half and shutting down the Utes to be able to kind of pull away a little bit at the end.
Yeah, and Clay Helton said, like you said, Shotgun, they took a major step forward. I know coming into the game, we had circled just a linebacker position because we knew Palaie Naote was going to be out with a concussion. It seemed like both Kanai Mauga and Raylan Goforth stepped up in this game. How much did the linebacker play a role in just the overall defensive improvement?
I mean, I thought Raylan Goforth was really good this game. He had 12 tackles. Kanai Mauga was up and down a little bit, but much better performance than last week against Arizona. I think this style of offense that Utah has, where they're going to run the ball downhill in the box, much more fits his style of play as a linebacker rather than Utah, who's trying to get on the edges a little bit more. But the linebackers really stepped forward this game. Without Palaie Naote in there, a guy that's, had got a lot of hype from Clay Helton and Todd Orlando coming into the season and hasn't played great the first 2 games. I thought those 2 guys stepped up. And remember, Kanai Mauga and Raylan Goforth were playing the same position, so one of them had to move over in this week to prepare for Utah. And you don't know exactly what you're going to get from a team in the first game. You kind of have an idea because you face Utah and you have a good feeling about them. But they did some different things, and they try to get some of their young guys the ball in different ways. And USC was prepared for it all. So I thought the linebackers played really well. They stopped the inside run from becoming a thing that bothered USC throughout the game. And the defensive line in front of them was fantastic all game.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned the offense, and Clay Helton said they still have steps forward to go. I believe it was 357 yards total for this offense. And for an air raid offense and what we've seen, they've averaged 500 yards a game so far this season. What do you take away from this performance, and specifically Kedon Slovis, since we knew all eyes were going to be on him since he's had those pass issues these past couple of games?
Yeah, and Kedon Slovis still didn't look, like the Kedon Slovis of 2019. He wasn't crisp. He said that he felt like his throws were on point today. He didn't have any throwing issues, is the way he phrased it. I don't necessarily agree with that. There were still some times when, he didn't have the same velocity, wasn't able to thread some needles. Some of that was, reading the coverages and stuff. He had a bad interception where it looked like it was a miscommunication with him and Eric Cromanhook on a 4 verts concept and where the tight end was going to turn. But he did enough for the USC offense to be able to get the win. And that's what Clay Helton said. He said, winners win. This guy finds a way to win. That's what he did. Besides that one turnover, he got hit and turned the ball over, and Utah was able to return a scoop and score fumble for a touchdown. But Keaton Slovis did enough. He didn't look good in the offense. You still feel like there's much more that could be coming of this. They're not firing all cylinders, which Clay Helton said, we will hit on all cylinders soon. Okay, well, you got 3 games left to do it, so you better start pouring some STP or something in that engine to get those cylinders nice and greased up and get ready to go here. Some fuel injector stuff or whatever it is, but they still are not 100%, going at the rate that we know that they're capable of. They did enough today. Again, they had to settle for field goals in, plus territory once more, 4 field goals. Congratulations to Parker Lewis, 4 for 4, perfect day. But the offense wasn't able to capitalize fully. They had 13 points off turnovers. USC's defense, they had 16 points if you want to count the turnovers on downs as well. So 7 times the defense gave them the ball, and they got 16 points out of it. In a marquee matchup against a Utah team, maybe like last year's Utah team, that's returning a lot of veterans versus a team this year with a lot of question marks, that might be the difference in the game, how you capitalize on those turnovers. So congratulations to USC's defense for creating those turnovers. The USC's offense got to do a little bit more with them, though.
I know you haven't had a chance to watch this game 9 million times yet, Shotgun, but what's your assessment of this USC offense, especially given, we saw Arizona play against UW tonight, and UW took care of business against that Arizona defense. I mean, we expected Graham Harrell's offense to take a step forward in year 2, and it just seems like things are a little clunky right now.
I think clunky is a very good word for it, actually, Keely. It's just stop and start. You feel like there's never a true rhythm. They really get going. You see one drive maybe per game. I feel like that's what it's been outside of the 2-minute drill that they've looked really good in, the first 2 games. But outside of that, you feel like there's one drive where just in the middle of the game, like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. And besides that, you're like, oh, they're moving the ball really well. But then they get in the red zone, and it's like, there's not there. So they're having to settle for the field goals, just not tonight it wasn't the short yardage situations. USC looked good in a couple times. They had short yardage situations, but they just weren't able to get in those short yardage situations the same as they had the last couple of weeks. They weren't, picking up the yardage as efficiently as they had in the previous weeks. But a couple of guys did stand out. Brew McCoy, I think he ended up finishing as the leading receiver in this game. He played a lot more in this game, played a lot for Tyler Vaughn's on one side. So that'll be something to monitor going forward. Tyler Vaughn's also had a big game, had a touchdown catch. Eric Cromanhook, 2nd week in a row. As Raina Troy, our friends Raina Troy tweeted, USC's undefeated when Eric Cromanhook has a touchdown. So maybe they got to get the ball to the tight end a little bit more. That's 2 for 2. That's the last 2 weeks for USC there. But Keaton Slovis is the key. If he gets clicking the way he was last year, this offense churns and does a lot more. He's being patient, but it also seems at times he's being hesitant. He doesn't have the confidence to throw it in some of the tight windows that maybe he did last year. And when he does try to throw some of the balls in the tight windows, it's a little bit behind or a little bit high, just a little bit off, not the pinpoint accuracy that we saw last year at times. So I think if they get him straightened out, fixed, and he's back to where he was last year, then this offense, takes a step forward and they score, 10, 14 more points a game easily. But until they get him going, they need to rely on that run game a little bit more. And the run game was solid tonight. Vavae Malepeai stepping in because we were missing some guys.
Yeah, you took away my next point, Chuck, and so I'm cutting you off right now. As far as injuries go, we did see Brett Nealon return, as well as Caleb Tremblay and Brandon Keely getting his first action of 2020. But then you go to the running backs, and it was a weird situation because Stephen Carr only got 1 carry. It was basically Vavae Malepeai and Keenan Kristen. Marquise Stepp was not dressed out for the game. Clay Helton said afterwards he had a pec strain. So Marquise Stepp, just injuries galore, it feels like, this season. He's just trying to get healthy there. But, Shotgun, the weird thing about Clay Helton's explanation about Stephen Carr, it wasn't very clear. What was your takeaway as to what that injury is?
Yeah, he said that he first mentioned Marquise Stepp, said he has a pectoral strain, and then followed with Stephen Carr and said that basically, and he's the same. So I don't know if that means he has a pectoral strain. He didn't play the first quarter at all, and then he came in right after the first quarter and played 2 snaps. And then Clay Helton said he also kind of took a knee to the back. So maybe on the play that ended up actually being the scoop and score for Utah, he was in on that play. Maybe he got injured on that play. Why he didn't play in the first quarter? Was it the pectoral strain? It's pretty unusual that a player sits out a first quarter completely, a starter, and then is immediately right in. that usually indicates is, oh, you've been held out for a quarter for a reason, missing the team meeting or whatever it may be, who knows. A lot of times that would seem to be the case, but he didn't say anything about it afterwards. So we're going to go with a pectoral strain for Stephen Carr, and then maybe a knee to the back as well. Confusion. We'll ask tomorrow, try to get some clarification on that for you guys in the Sunday night, or actually it's today now because it's a late night instant analysis here. But we'll try to get some clarification on that. But give credit to Vavae Malepeai. He stepped up when USC needed him. Keenan Kristen played some. I think he got 5 carries in this game. He probably played 15 to 20 offensive snaps. I would guess Vavae Malepeai, they had 66, so I'm guessing he played 40 to 50 in there. So he took a lion's share there, and that's something that's kind of unusual for running backs to do in this day and age, especially in an offense like the air raid. And he was there, as a passing down guy, as a pass blocker, as the guy to run the ball. And, his stats aren't overwhelming, but he did a really nice job for him. He would have had a touchdown that was called back for a holding call, but he looked pretty good for USC as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking big picture, Shotgun, USC is now 3-0, even though these wins are kind of a mixed bag for USC fans. Next week, USC is going to take on Colorado at home. Now, 2020 is weird, but right now it looks like that will be the Pac-12 South decider. What are you looking for going ahead, and what's your evaluation of this USC team essentially 3 games in?
As everyone expected, the USC-Colorado game's a matchup of unbeaten teams that have a chance to win the Pac-12 South. Naturally, what everyone expected. No, Carl Durrell and the Buffaloes have looked much better than anyone anticipated. A converted safety, former quarterback, turned safety, back to quarterback, starting for them. So USC is going to have to put pressure on their quarterback, and we'll get into those matchups throughout the week. But USC, they've taken care of business. It hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been smooth and crisp, but they've taken care of business. They're 3-0, and they've won on the road twice. That's, for one, going on the road in this time right now in 2020 with COVID and all the testing and all the precautions and protocols and stuff is going to be difficult the first time you do it. For 2, going on the road at Utah, a place where USC, first time they've won in Salt Lake City on a Saturday in 103 years. Obviously, everyone expected that. It's first time, the old 103 anniversary. They just get it every 103 years. No, they haven't played a ton of times, but first time they won on a Saturday night. You expected it could be eerie with all the strangeness of this season, but maybe there was some must magic coming on. No, USC took care of business, so give them a lot of credit for that. And now their final 3 games are in LA, so now you're playing, and you expect Colorado coming into the season. Colorado, Washington State and UCLA were the back half of the schedule was supposed to be easy. You got to take care of business still, but USC is definitely going to be favored in these games. And if they continue to get better, and we saw them improve tonight, the offense, again, still some things to go, but the defense, big improvements, especially in the second half. If they continue to improve and get better as the season goes on, this might actually be a team that you look at the end of the season and go, hey, they are firing on all cylinders for once.
You did a Clay Heltonism. I don't know what to do with that.
I said you might see. I didn't say, this is going to happen.
You can't wait to see this team in November, Shotgun.
We're seeing them in November. We'll see what they look like in December. But, again, they're making some strides, but it's still not to the level of where USC should probably be. I know a lot of fans are going to be upset with any win right now with Clay Helton at the helm. But there are some positives to take away from this, but definitely some areas where they can still grow. And that's the biggest thing with this group. When are you going to live up to that potential? Yep. A 16-point win is solid at Utah. But Clay Helton even said at halftime it should have been 31-10. They could have been up in this game even more. And you have a chance to separate. And I asked him about it. I was like, what does it take to get that separator? And there's always a couple plays where like, if they made this play or they made that play, then they push it out. And instead of a 14-point lead, it's a 21, it's a 28. And suddenly all those young guys get extra time. And that helps your program in the future as well. But 16-point win on the road at Utah, a place where they have notoriously struggled in the past to win, is a positive for USC. And, they're in the driver's seat as far as the Pac-12 South. Colorado does come in undefeated, but USC is in the driver's seat for sure. Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts, Shotgun? I know you pretty much covered it there, but any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
give a shout out to the USC special teams. Parker Lewis goes 4 for 4 in this game on field goals to create that 16-point gap. 12 of the 16 points there. But also they didn't return a kick. Utah is usually really, really good with their special teams. USC negated it. So give a lot of credit to the special teams there, Sean Snyder, because that's an area where even in that first game, a team that Utah of their special teams caliber can normally kind of turn a game. And that could be on one of those places where they make something crazy happen and suddenly it becomes a game again. But instead, USC just kind of put them away in the second half. The offense didn't do it. It was the defense and special teams in this game.
Yep. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for USC's 33-17 win over Utah. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.